Hey, I have got a deal for you. You're planning something for the summer. You're planning a little vacation. Why don't you make it a big vacation, like going to Africa? Have you ever imagined that? Well, I don't know whether Matt did or not when he was growing up in Scottsdale. Matt Day, welcome. I am so glad, Matt Dry, I'm so glad that you joined us on the Morning Scramble, because I can't even imagine. I can imagine some jobs, but I can't imagine being a safari guide in Africa, particularly growing up in Scottsdale. I'm not going to ask you how you got the job. I just want to know if you could tell us how it is that we can take advantage of participating in the same kind of adventures. Could you take us from the beginning of the time that we land in Africa and what happens on one of these safaris?
Well, one of the things I have to say is that people have a tendency to think that Africa is terribly, terribly expensive and terribly inaccessible, but it just isn't true. You have all sorts of different venues for finding. You have travel agents, but if you showed up in Africa, I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody because it's always going to be an adventure, but you could literally grab like a Lonely Planet guide, show up there just as if you were in Europe, and take your trip according to that.
Can I go direct from LA?
You can go, most likely you'll fly from LA to New York. You'll go from New York to Cape Town, Johannesburg, or you'll fly to London to go to a place like Nairobi. The trips that I'm doing, my two hubs are Cape Town and Nairobi.
Okay, so I'm in Nairobi.
Yes.
All right. I've got Matt Dry as my African safari guide. Tell me about the first day.
Okay, so we pick you up at the airport. We take you to whatever hotel we may be staying at. Depending what type of trip you do, if you're doing an overlanding trip with a bunch of people from all over the world, we have a pre-departure meeting where I tell you all the do's and don'ts of traveling on a truck with a number of people.
Don't annoy the lions. I mean, I would imagine that would probably be one of the first rules, right?
That is a wonderful rule, and one of the ones we definitely discuss.
Am I going to see lions? I just keep thinking, as much as and this is one continent that I have not visited and have always wanted to.
You must come.
Everybody that I know that's gone, they always say the same thing. I can't wait until I get back. But if you're talking about booking a safari, I always envisioned the idea that I would go on the one where the animals were sleeping all day long and all night long, and I would never see anything.
Well, if lions are your thing, lions tend to sleep up to 20 hours a day. So to see them doing anything other than sleeping is really a wonderful, wonderful thing. The more safaring you do, the more animals you get to see, the more you see them doing things that are much more interesting than sleeping.
Well, let's take a look at some of the things that
Sure.
we might be able to see on the official Matt Dry Safari. Ask for the Scottsdale guy. Listen, we haven't even gotten an answer on this one yet. That is the hiney of the animal in question right now, and I believe we do have a winner. Now, all right. So now, are these that immediately available outside of Nairobi?
So, strangely enough, in the middle of Nairobi, one of the wonderful things about the city is right smack in the middle of the city is a game reserve.
Really?
Which is very accessible. I don't recommend that as being, say, the best place to go, but if you had a day doing a business trip in Nairobi, you could go to Nairobi National Park there.
And as we continue to take a look at the associates of Matt Dry in Africa, oh, look, they woke up.
Yeah, they did, actually.
Now, what is this?
That was that is an eland. That is the largest antelope in the world. They broke off from a cattle about 22 million years ago in evolutionary terms.
You have to do a lot of zoological study in order to be able to identify these things, right?
Yes, you do. Hopefully you spend some time on your own as well, but the school I went to in particular was fantastic.
We got to be careful of these guys, don't we?
They do say that hippos have the highest mortality rate in taking care of human beings, but mostly that's simply because hippos are obviously aquatic animals. They need water. We need water. Quite often, hippos are nocturnal feeders. They're out feeding at night, eating grass. People get caught between them and the water. Unfortunately, they get scared. They weigh 3 tons. Bad things are going to happen.
Now, this is just an example of the exotic life that's there that is not hippo size.
Yes. That's a flap-necked chameleon. Wonderful creature. The ones change color, eyes do different things, shoot their tongues out. Chobe National Park. This is also Chobe National Park. What he's actually doing, he's actually crossing the road in front of us, and he does a little dance. His little dance makes him look like a leaf blowing in the wind.
I thought you were talking about the elephants, and,
Yeah.
I thought, listen, I would give an extra tip just to watch the elephant dance.
Well,
but
we get to them do that sometimes.
okay, so the elephants, though, are they pretty accessible?
Extremely accessible. As a couple stories in there suggest
Norman.
the book. You have the story of Norman, yes.
Norman was chasing your buns. I mean, you said to the folks that were enjoying their outdoor barbecue, get back in the car. Here comes Norman,
That's
right?
That's right.
And Norman must have either thought you had something extremely delectable or a lady elephant.
Well, the lady elephants were on the hill. We were sort of in between him and the lady elephants on the hill. He was definitely heading in that direction, but I think he was taking a little break to have a snack with us.
Yeah, do people, particularly American tourists, do the folks who book your safaris tend to begin the experience with an enormous amount of trepidation and fear?
I do think so. I do think that unfortunately, especially in America, the media has a bad habit of saying that Africa is filled with AIDS, and you see the Rwandan genocide in '94.
Well, those things do exist.
Which is true, but the places that we go to, and most safari companies will take you to, are totally bereft of any sort of political or you see the problems, but the problems are contained. And
if you've got the right guy, especially one that has written a book like This is Africa, True Tales of a Safari Guide. I mean, if you're going to trust anybody, wouldn't you trust somebody from the valley that decided to go over and do this? If we make the assumption
yes.
that in almost every case, people keep having these safaris because they're safe, talk about your closest call.
Closest call. Well, when I say safe, I mean in terms of on a grander scale, like political strife, or if one thing about Africa, if you do stupid things, you are going to pay for it. Africa does not suffer fools.
That's also true of Gilbert.
I've been there. I know. I actually quite like the place, but it's possible. Yeah. Well, probably the closest call I've had was being chased by our dominant bull rhino in Kosi. Whose name means king. And I can tell you, when he's chasing you across an open field, you agree with him 100%.
Okay, but now why would that start? What did you do wrong, if anything?
Well, I thought I was doing everything right. I had taken great consideration to cross this field, believing that if any animal came out from one side or the other of this huge open field, that I would be able to see him and take the people who I was walking with, because you can also you can do walking safaris in certain places, and of course you can be in vehicles, do overlanding, which is going huge distances. But walking safaris, you do have to carry a weapon. It's not for hunting, but just for protection in case situations like this happen. Where in Kosi, there was one bush in this entire field, and this enormous 3-ton rhino just happened to be behind that one bush.
Oh, surprise!
Exactly. So I did everything right in considering what I should be doing. I just made the one assumption that he would not be behind this one particular bush.
I wonder what's on the other side of this bush. Oh, a rhino. Listen, with just a couple of minutes left,
sure.
You have so many great stories. And where do they get the book?
You can find it on Amazon.com. It is available in Kindle. 33% of all proceeds go to African Wildlife Foundation, which helps not only wildlife but people and conserving land. It's on Kindle. And
don't forget to invite everybody.
And
to
everybody
Changing
must
Hands.
come to Changing Hands
Yes,
Bookstore Saturday 7 to 9 this Saturday. 16th.
Okay, now 7 to 9 Saturday, which gives you plenty of time not only to sign but also to talk to the people who show up.
Right, I will be doing a very intricate presentation, not only reading from the book, which will happen very little, but also talking about all the settings within which these stories took place.
You're gonna have some pictures?
Oh yes, there are probably about 130 photos that I will be talking about.
Ooh.
Yes.
Terrific.
I hope you come.
Well, there's always a good reason to go to Changing Hands, my favorite bookstore. And they treat the authors well and they treat the customers well. But when you have these kinds of events, they're spectacularly done there, but especially if you're talking about introducing people to Africa. With only about 30 seconds left, one of the biggest problems we have, of course, obviously with endangered species is they continue to be endangered because of us, because of poachers. The poachers do that because of poverty. How can we make that difference?
Creating awareness, of course. One thing I would like to say, Pat, is that quite often it's not about poverty. Actually, it's about greedy people in foreign lands wanting to make money off of things like rhino horn, which has no value whatsoever. It's a fingernail, but there are guys that make a lot of money selling it to people who believe it has medicinal value. So it's just making sure that people are aware of these things, because if we're not watching them, we're not visiting Africa, we're not seeing these animals, they're going to disappear.
I have a feeling that that's part of your message on Saturday.
Amen.
At Changing
Amen.
Hands, my friends. What time again?
7 to 9.
This is Africa.
come.
That is Matt Dry. And I can't think of a better place to be on Saturday evening than Changing Hands Bookstore. Hey, this is the Morning Scramble.